success in conservative media is a thing. There's always someone. It does not tend to translate to success anywhere other than the conservative media. And that's fine. I mean, conservative media itself is a very big business. It is very slick. It is very successful as an entity. In a way, I'm sorry to say that partisan liberal media never has been, not for want of trying. Trust me, I know. But what's actually important for the country, I think, here is understanding what conservative media does. Not overstating dominant conservative media figures as somehow, standing bestride American culture and making things happen. They all only exist in terms of their influence within conservative media. But conservative media and the conservative movement are very effective. They're rich, effective, successful, thriving enterprises. And for at least the past generation, that really is where the political success has been on the American right. It's in conservative media and in the conservative movement. That's where they are strongest. And conservative media and the conservative movement tend to drag the actual Republican Party around like a rag doll that's missing a limb or two. I mean, the Republican Party is comparatively very weak, very disorganized, and has no idea how to talk to people. The Republican Party has lost the popular vote in 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. I mean, look at the headlines in the other news from the right now. News that's not about the conservative media, news that's about the Republican Party. Keep in mind that we are a democracy and your success as a political party depends on people liking your ideas and voting for them. Look at what they're running on right now. Look at what they're doing in governance right now. And think about the popularity of these things with the average American. Look at the headlines right now. Republicans voting to roll back child labor laws. Lobbyists have found remarkable success among Republicans to relax regulations that prevent American children from working long hours in dangerous conditions. Okay, so they're crusading against child labor laws. Republicans in Missouri vote to shut all public libraries. Yeah, Americans sure hate libraries. Republican-controlled states go after millions of American families who right now have health insurance because Republicans want to take away that health insurance from millions of American families and leave them with nothing. That'll be popular. Republicans fighting right now in dozens of states to load people up with student loans they otherwise wouldn't have to deal with. Everybody's going to love that. Republicans blocking rape victims from receiving emergency contraception. Because who among us doesn't see a mainstream American voting issue in forcing women who have been raped to bear the child of the rapist against their will? That's a winning issue for the voters, I'm sure. Republicans all over the country not only banning abortion, which is radically unpopular in this country, but now in multiple states, they are changing the rules of how laws can be made in those states so the people who live in those states will no longer be able to vote for abortion rights, even if that's what they want. I mean, look at it in terms of their high-dollar candidates. The guy polling second for the Republican nomination for president right now is hoping to coast to the White House on the popularity of him just signing a total ban on abortion and also instituting book bans and attacking Disney. What, no puppies to kick? The guy polling first for the Republican nomination for president was just indicted on 34 felonies, and tomorrow's the day that the civil suit against him starts related to the rape claims. And I mean, that's just like today. A snapshot of how things are going with the Republican Party in their effort to win over the American people to the popularity of their ideas. And it's kind of been like that for a while. And in contrast, the conservative media business and the conservative movement, they have their act together when you compare them to the Republican Party. They, for example, are very successful, both at what they try to do and in pure business terms. They are slick and they are powerful, at least they have been. And they really are responsible for the success of the political right in this country in a way that, I'm sorry, you just cannot credit to the work of the Republican Party itself. Because when the Republican Party, when Republican Party politicians are left to do their thing, look at what they do. So now, here's the question. The conservative media right now, today, is in one of its periodic crises. Right? They just today have lopped off another one of their episodically dominant figures who, for whatever reason, hasn't worked out. But he really is one of a string of them. There will be someone after him. And the important question, aside from the gossip and the business news and all that stuff, the important question for our country is about the success of that business, the success of that industry, whether that remarkably successful industry as a whole is today at any risk of losing its zhuzh, its power, its capacity, importantly, to drag the Republican Party around in its wake, no matter how hapless that party is and remains. That's the question.